Bear market. Let's face it, it is a scary expression, but it doesn't just necessarily mean a downward price pattern in the markets. More accurately, it means we don't know how much lower we're gonna go and when, if ever, we'll be able to start the upward price trajectory that'll help us to make up for some of the losses we've incurred. The last two big bear markets were in 2017, 2018, and again in 2020. But those markets had specific characteristics that defined them, and this one doesn't. At least we don't think so. Stick around and listen to our opinion. We feel that we may not be actually in a bear market after all, and we're gonna tell you why in this video. First of all, the bear markets of 2018 and 2020 were categorically different than what we're seeing today. Yes, really, big downward price action they do have in common, but not much else. And first, let's take a look at what happened back then. So in 2018, the cause was really the ICO, the initial coin offering craze. And following, there was a crash in that market that really brought all of crypto into a bear market. That's just what precipitated everything. And those of you that were around in crypto at the time will likely remember what it was like. It was not pleasant. There were some very high-flying ICOs, such as EOS, which is shown here. Some of these were top 20 projects. EOS, for example, certainly was. And now, as you can see, it sits at number 59. It's fallen quite a ways. The DAO hack of 2017 that caused the hard fork in Ethereum into Ethereum and Ethereum Classic is the largest single event of that particular market. And in fact, it created doubts about Ethereum's survival altogether as a chain and whether they could recover from a centralized led hard fork. Clearly they have, but at the time there was a lot of doubt. During ICO times, there were group chats and Telegram groups for insiders and front runners, and they got into ICOs at private venture capital level pricing before releasing the coins to the public. If any of that sounds familiar, well, that's what's going on right now with some, not all, but some NFTs and games currently, the way they're launching IDOs and launch pads. And there's some pretty crazy whitelisting requirements. It's not exactly the same, but you can see how there's a certain rhyming in terms of the historical precedents. And eventually, after all the big insiders cashed out their bags for Bitcoin and Ethereum, mostly Bitcoin, there was nowhere left to go. Everyone sold their bags, making really the entire market go bearish. All right, and what did Bitcoin do during this time? Well, one key on-chain metric, UTXO, which stands for unspent transaction outputs, that plummeted from $6 million in late 2017 to just under $600,000 by mid-2018. UTXOs are the part of your coin you don't spend when you send a transaction. So that's a huge bearish sign, as UTXO should be rising regardless of price if people are using the network. Another key metric is MVRV, or market value to realized value. That dropped as well. MVRV measures the current price against the price that last the coin moved. In 2018, for example, it dropped from a high of almost 5 into negative numbers. And when it goes negative, that means that Bitcoin is extremely oversold and ready to bounce back, which it did. It also means short-term traders are trading it at a loss. Now, 2020 actually had a different catalyzing root cause, but it was also event-driven. So in 2020, the cause was the pandemic. No surprise here. Fear about the virus, a lot of FUD, the effect it would have on people. At the time, this was all novel. We didn't necessarily have the information. And so quarantining and stuff like that, it was all a shock for just about everyone, and markets around the world dried up. The S&P 500 dropped from 3,380 on February 14th down to a low of 2,304 on the 20th of March, almost to the day that the first quarantines were announced in Europe, North America, and South America. And that one drop of 31.8% occurred in only 6 weeks. Bitcoin hit its low in that market around the same time. It was on March 13th, Friday the 13th, by the way, at $5,165. And its high, also on Valentine's Day, was $9,911. So that drop is a little more than 50% in just 4 weeks. Pretty brutal. Again, UTXOs dropped, but not a whole lot. And MVRV dropped again into the negative briefly in early 21, which again signaled oversold conditions. And let's face it, recently the market has been painful, but are we encountering the same conditions, the same bear market parameters and circumstances? We don't think so. And for an explanation as to why, let's consider 2021 on-chain conditions. So because we don't spend tons of time on Bitcoin on this channel, we don't spend lots of time with the on-chain metrics, but many of our favorite chains just haven't been around long enough to have meaningful on-chain metrics. But Bitcoin here is obviously the exception. And these metrics matter a lot, especially with Bitcoin, and Bitcoin leads the market, so we want it to be successful, of course. Let's therefore see why what's going on with Bitcoin on-chain is showing us better times are coming soon. Again, at least in our opinion. First of all, let's start with volatility. And in 2018 and the 2020 bear markets, Bitcoin's volatility increased as the price went down. But in our current market, it's been decreasing slightly and has been flat for the last few weeks, with the exception of a recent uptick. So despite people's fear in the market, it's not translating into higher volatility just yet compared to the most recent bear markets. Let's take a look now at some other metrics. Beginning first with MVRV. So blockchain.com measures lots of on-chain metrics. And this chart here, we're looking at the last 180 days, so the last 6 months. And it clearly looks like MVRV, which declined heavily in both markets previously and eventually went negative. It looks like here it has bottomed out. And that bottom on January 24th at a value of about 1.38 is low, but it's still positive, i.e. it has not reflected a negative number in these last 6 months. And Seeking Alpha agrees, and they suggest that we're currently sitting between a neutral and an accumulation phase, which is not the same as a full-blown bear market. Let's now take another look at UTXO. Other than some very heavy spikes, admittedly, in September and November, unspent transaction outputs have been slowly and steadily rising, actually since late May. And that just doesn't happen in bear markets. In bear markets, they fall sometimes as much as 90%, as was the case in 2018. So this observation, at least on its own, is bullish. We should also examine and consider both exchange inflows as well as outflows, because one of the most bullish and bearish signs is the amount of Bitcoin currently on exchanges and in exchange wallets. Why is that exactly? Well, because Bitcoin sent to exchanges is Bitcoin that is usually sold, while Bitcoin which leaves exchanges is usually held in cold storage, maybe other private wallets, and other long-term HODL strategies. And both on-chain analyst Willy Woo and Seeking Alpha both see exchange reserves flat or declining, which means the amount of Bitcoin held on exchanges is the same, either that or is going down. There aren't floods of people sending Bitcoin to exchanges to sell right now, as others may have you believe. It just isn't the case. And CryptoQuant, the quantitative research firm, has confirmed this for us as well. After huge increases of coins going to exchanges in both 2018 and the 2020 bear markets, right now it's just flat. There's just not a negative trend to report. There's almost exactly the same number that were there a year ago. So while people are fearful, they are holding on. Furthermore, the net hodler position is growing, and this means that hodlers are hodling for longer. They're not spending their coins. And again, that's unlike the 2018 bear market and the mid-late 2020 bear market, where more holders were spending their coins instead of hodling them. Holders are accumulating here, not selling. So again, this is a bullish observation. Another important consideration is dormancy flow. Again, our friends at Glassnode have a detailed definition of what dormancy flow is. What it provides us with is an idea as to whether Bitcoin is trading at a high price, a fair price, or a value price, i.e. a discount compared to the tendency to want to spend. So Bitcoin is now in a deep accumulation phase, like it was in early 2019 and mid 2020 before the two big runs that we saw in price. This one is a sign that maybe the bears have had enough and the bulls will take over soon. So once again, a bullish observation. And then we also have Bitcoin's monetary velocity to consider. Only currencies usually talk about monetary velocity. So for example, in the US with the dollar, monetary velocity is part of the M1 and M2 money supplies. It's a measure of how fast money is moving around in the economy. And in healthy economies, normally that number is steady and increasing. Think about it this way. If you spend $5 on coffee, for example, then the coffee shop spends your $5, maybe paying their wholesaler for the ingredients and materials. And then the wholesaler uses your $5, which started with you. The wholesaler uses that to pay maybe an employee. And then that $5 is moving fast from person to entity to person. Again, this is all an example of fast monetary velocity. And when people and businesses hoard money, then velocity declines, and so does economic output and generally health. Thanks to this crypto quant chart, we can see in the 2018 bear market, velocity dropped like a rock. Again, a drop, although less in 2020. So this means that coins weren't moving through the Bitcoin ecosystem. People were either selling or hodling them. But since January 2021, about a year ago, Bitcoin's monetary velocity has been on a steady increase, which means people are using it more, which is a sign that Bitcoin's market is healthy. Once again, this is a bullish observation. You know, today we compared the bear markets of 2018 and 2020 to our current market, whatever the conditions are, and we decided to look at Bitcoin's on-chain metric and make important observations, such as look at the market value to relative value, that's MVRV, exchange inflows and outflows, unspent transaction outputs, and more show us today in terms of these statistics, more of them show us that the market is not like those that we've previously seen. It doesn't have the same bearish characteristics. What it really means is that despite what you see in your portfolios, maybe you're not happy with it, but despite that, we're not in a bear market right now, at least not in our opinion. Could we be eventually? Yeah, maybe, but we're not right now, at least based on these stats. And many signs like dormancy flow and exchange flows lead us to think it's very possible the worst could be over and the bull market could make a return soon. Let us know, guys, what you think about the current market conditions. There's always a debate in the comments. Some people are more bullish, some people are more bearish. I guess it depends on your point of view, and everybody has their own metrics and stats that they deem to be the most important. These are our opinions and observations. Again, never financial advice, but best of luck, of course, if you do choose to invest. If you guys are still watching, be sure to like, subscribe, share, and hit the bell to receive notifications. That way, of course, you get alerted by YouTube every time there is new content that is published on our channel. Volatility in crypto is nothing new. If you're intimidated by the markets and would like some guidance potentially as to what projects we're on the lookout for and maybe what some of your entry and exit strategies should be, then you guys should bank on our experience. We've developed a keen eye for potential opportunities. You can take advantage of that with our Access Pro Plan product that starts at $99 per month. And with it, you get early access to information exclusively on things like technical analysis calls, undervalued gems, NFT mint opportunities. We have news about top IDOs and airdrop information. And of course, you can also interact over Telegram with our research experts. Some slots are still available. If this is something that interests you, check out the link, which is always included in our description below. All right, guys, check out these other videos, which should be popping up right about now. Stay safe. And as always, we do hope to see you again soon in the next video. Take care.